We know that naturally a circuit has many different types of gates, such as AND, OR, NOT, XOR. However, in principle, we know that one gate is enough. NAND is universally complete. And so a single 2-input gate suffices for all of Boolean logic in digital hardware. However, no comparable primitive has been known for continuous mathematics. And so that is the analogy we are going to explore in this video. Is it possible that we can have one brick repeated many times over to rebuild the entire continuous mathematics language? The paper that we'll be exploring is titled All Elementary Functions from a Single Operator by Andrzej Odrzywolek, whose name I'm sorry I probably mispronounced. The paper states that unlike in traditional digital language, standard mathematics does not have a distinct expression that compresses existing functions to nearly the same degree that the NAND gate does in Boolean logic. Odrzywolek proposes an expression EML that aims to act as a comparable primitive for continuous mathematics. We'll go over how this primitive works throughout the video, but I'll also have Odrzywolek's paper linked below as I highly recommend reading it. A scientific calculator looks much less uniform than digital logic. It has arithmetic, roots and powers, exponentials and logarithms, trigonometry, and a dozen other specialized buttons. Each group feels like a different species of operation. So here is the question: does this continuous world have its own version of NAND? The operator from the paper is called EML, and I'll write that as E of xy. Its definition is extremely small, e to the x minus the natural log of y. The left input is exponentiated, the right input is logged, and then the two results are subtracted. The order does matter. E of xy is not the same as E of yx. We can also note that the special constant is 1. This is because the natural log of 1 is 0, so putting a 1 into the right slot can silence the logarithm branch completely. The first reconstruction we'll tackle are exponentials, and this is almost too easy. We'll start by taking our original definition, then we'll set the second input to 1. Since we know that the natural log of 1 is 0, the second term vanishes, and what remains is just e to the x. And so the exponential function is already one EML gate. Now logarithms, however, are slightly less obvious. The paper gives us this 3-gate construction. At first glance, this looks strangely backwards, so let's read it from the inside out. The blue layer is e minus the natural log of z, and we'll feed that into a second EML gate whose right input is 1. Because we know from the previous exponential rule that e of a1 is equal to e raised to the a, this middle layer exponentiates the entire thing. Using exponent rules, that then just becomes this fraction. And this fraction is what will pass into the final layer. Now for the final EML gate, we can take that fraction as its second input. Expanding the definition gives us this. And the logarithm of the quotient splits apart. And so, beautifully, the entire expression, which we've already significantly reduced, can actually become even simpler. The two e's cancel, the double negative flips, and the result is simply the natural log of z. And now we have two very foundational materials. We have both exponentials and logarithms made only from EML and a single constant. Before moving on to the rest of the calculator, let's check that this expression we've just simplified logarithm to is actually valid. Let's start with a target of the log of 5, which we can approximate to roughly 1.6. We'll need to remember the rule that e of xy is equal to e raised to the x minus the natural log of y, and since the natural log of 1 is 0, we're left with just e squared. We can run the logarithm identity numerically then. The inner gate gives us e minus the natural log of 5, which is approximately 1.1. The middle gate then has a 1 in its right slot, so it exponentiates to approximately 3.03. The final gate subtracts the natural log of our number from e, which beautifully lands us back to the exact approximation we needed. The same idea checks out for ordinary arithmetic as well. We'll get to the exact specifics of how we've derived these expressions to rewrite subtraction in a moment. We'll also be able to understand how, by unlocking subtraction, we're effectively able to express several other functions as well. Lastly, multiplication itself can just be rewritten through fundamental logarithm rules. If we take the log of x into the left input and the exponential of y into the right input, we get e of log x exponential y. Beautifully, if we expand that EML, we end up with an expression that makes use of subtraction. From here, we can observe that the exponential undoes the logarithm, and likewise the natural logarithm undoes the exponential, such that the entire expression simplifies to just x minus y. In other words, we can represent subtraction through our original EML, e of log x exponential y. Once subtraction exists, the rest of basic arithmetic is trivial to make. 0 naturally comes from the log of 1. Negative numbers can be obtained by subtracting from 0, and addition can also be represented through double negation, that is to say, subtracting with a negative number. Multiplication, as I mentioned earlier, is also possible through the use of logarithms. The exponential of the log of x plus the log of y. Division, powers, and roots are variations of the same thing. So essentially, we rebuilt the calculator's arithmetic core from those two foundational materials. Now, in order to reach trigonometry, we'll need the bridge that connects exponentials to circles, the imaginary axis. We can consider that e to the ix is equal to cos of x plus I sine x. The reason we're introducing imaginary numbers here is we need to kind of think of them as an internal route. A real input can leave the real line, travel through the complex plane, and return as a real output. And so our calculation may use complex internals even if the displayed result is real. Sine and cosine themselves can be expressed thanks to the arithmetic we've obtained earlier. We'll start with the two Euler identities. If we add them, the imaginary parts cancel out, and so we can simplify cos x to this fraction. If we subtract them, the real parts cancel, and comparably, we've now derived sine of x. And we know that tangent is just sine x over cos x. And the hyperbolic functions come from the same exponential patterns without needing to rotate around the imaginary plane. Thus, so far, from exponents and natural logs, we've obtained both circular and hyperbolic functions. The constants then, I and pi, can also be reached through complex logarithms, using, for instance, the log of -1 is equal to I pi. And so we can see through this that even circular functions are recovered from exponentials and logarithms, given that we're allowed to use the complex plane. For multiplication, the identity is familiar, but each piece on the right is already a little EML construction, and this is the trade-off that we're making. Every internal node is now the same operator, which is beautiful for machine grammar, but the expression can become much larger. By this point, we can observe that the derivations we've made aren't perfectly compact. And so this is, in a way, the price for creating a universal function. For a human, x multiplied by y is one compact symbol, but in this EML basis, even multiplication has to be spelled out through exponentials, logarithms, addition, negation, and then EML gates underneath all of those. In the paper's counting view, the exponential of x costs 1 EML gate, the log costs 3, and this multiplication construction costs 9. And so just because it's universal doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be compact. Okay, now let's look at the same idea from the point of view of formula trees. A normal expression might look like something like this. It has a heterogeneous syntax tree. One node is addition, one is sign, one is power. The tree itself is full of different node types, but after the translation into the EML basis, the internal nodes become uniform, where every branch point is the same gate. Only the leaves are simple ingredients like X and 1. It is not the most readable language for humans, but it is a very regular language for machines. One way to discover this kind of basis is to play a broken calculator game. Suppose the multiplication key has died. Can you still multiply? You can if exponential and logarithms survive. We can break division and square root, comparably. They can also be rebuilt from surviving keys. And so this paper is pushing this idea down a ladder of smaller and smaller calculator bases. At each rung, a function is allowed to disappear only if it can be reconstructed from what remains. Eventually, the descent reaches the absolute lowest rung, one binary operator plus a constant 1. That is this paper's proposal of a sort of continuous cousin of NAND. For an ablation search, it follows the same discovery process. We start with a full scientific calculator and remove a family of buttons only when the remaining ones can rebuild it. Trigonometry goes first, then powers and roots, then arithmetic. The remaining keys are foundational for the buttons that have been removed. Finally, the exponential and logarithm pieces fuse into the single EML operator. And so really the point here is that our search can propose a tiny basis and algebra can verify it. And this is actually significant for symbolic regression, which is the problem of finding an exact formula from data. A neural network, for example, can draw a curve through points, but a curve is not the same as a human readable expression. Traditional formula search has to choose between discrete operators, and these choices are awkward for smooth optimization. An EML tree, however, replaces that mixed menu with a repeated node. Once the tree is uniform, the search can look more like tuning a circuit. The structure is made of repeated EML gates, and the continuous parameters control which inputs are active. As the dials turn, the curve bends toward the data. Then, when training has found a good fit, those soft choices can snap back to exact simple values. The machine thus searches in a uniform space and then returns a formula that we can read. And so these are important caveats. Universal doesn't necessarily mean compact. The clean expression sign, for instance, can expand into a large EML tree. That tree may be useful for a search procedure, but it is not better notation for a textbook. There are also analytic details. Complex logarithms, for instance, have branch choices, and expressions can hit infinities. And so domains do still matter. So this isn't a license for us to ignore the usual notations of mathematics. The paper also leaves certain natural questions open. For example, can a basis like this work without an explicit constant? Additionally, can symbolic regression scale these uniform trees deeply enough to be useful on hard data? Ultimately, this paper concludes that the goal wasn't to replace human notation. Humans do and should need to keep compact symbols like sign, log, and multiplication. But machines often benefit from a uniform grammar. And that is why the NAND analogy we established in the beginning is so useful. EML could be a universal brick for continuous mathematics.